so this week we have been going over the unit on promoting positive dietary habits. And the goal of this lesson is to capture many of the key points about the importance of nutrition and how to create lasting positive dietary habits. And throughout this lesson, you'll have plenty of chances to analyze your own dietary choices and opportunities to create your own meal plans. And today we're going to go over lesson 3, which is the sources of nutrition. All right, sources of nutrition. So we as humans obtain all the nutrients that we need for growth and development from the food that we eat every single day. And nutrients are the chemicals that our body uses to support critical human growth. All right, and then we have classes for these nutrients. We have 6 classes of nutrients for health that can be found in the foods that we consume every day. And these nutrients can be divided into 2 subgroups, and we look at those based on whether they provide energy for the body or not, or we can also divide them into groups based on their chemical makeup and whether or not they're inorganic or organic. So we'll break those down. And the 6 nutrients are carbohydrates, fats, which are also known as lipids, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. All right, and that first breakdown is whether or not they are organic or inorganic. And organic compounds contain a carbon and a hydrogen. And of the 6 nutrients that we just went over, those are your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins, and your vitamins. And on the other side are your inorganic compounds, and those do not contain a carbon. And of the 6 classes of nutrients, those are your minerals and your water. The other subgroup that we divide nutrients on are whether or not they provide the body with energy. And so nutrients that provide the body with energy are your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. And those are known as macronutrients, or macros for short. And then we have your non-energy providing nutrients, and these are your vitamins, your minerals, and your water. And we call these micronutrients, or micro for short. All right, so macronutrients are the super important ones we're going to go over first. And these are the classes of the nutrients that provide energy from the food that we consume. And their role is to break down and reassemble into the fuel that we use. And this is the fuel that we use for physical activity. And we also use it for tons of different things that we don't consciously think about, like sleeping, breathing, and digestion. Your body needs energy for all of those things. All right, so we're going to take a pause and see if you can remember the 6 classes of nutrients. So if you can get out your whiteboard and write all 6 of those down, I'll give you a minute to do that. And when you're done, if you can just hold that up for me. All right, we have fats, carbs, proteins, vitamins, mineral, and water. That's perfect. And I have one more question for you. So what about energy? Now, on those 6 that you have on your whiteboard, if you can please erase the 3 nutrients that do not provide energy to the body. So what you'll have left is the 3 that give your body energy every day, and you can hold it up when you're done. All right, you have fats, carbs, and proteins. That's perfect. So we can move on, where we're going to break down these macronutrients. So the first one we're going to go over are carbohydrates. Sometimes we can also call these carbs. They are your body's primary source of fuel. And it's also really important to note that they're the only macronutrient that your brain uses as fuel or energy. So it's really important that you make sure you get carbohydrates in your diet every single day. So to break that word down, carbo means carbon and hydrate means water. That's where it gets its name from. And carbs are found in a wide variety of foods, and those look like rice, wheat, other grains, and you can also find carbohydrates in your fruits and vegetables. And you can also find them in beans, lentils, seeds, peas, nuts, milk, and dairy. And another important thing to note is a subgroup of carbohydrates is fiber. You can only find fiber in your fruits and vegetables. All right, some excellent sources of carbs for your diet. When you're planning meals, you want to look for whole grains like oatmeal or whole wheat bread. And you want to eat fruits of every single color, and same for your vegetables. So that looks like raspberries, strawberries, bananas, blueberries, broccoli. Am I forgetting anything?
Carrots.
That's another color. You also want to look for legumes, and that covers navy beans, kidney beans, black beans, lentils, chickpeas, everything. And now we'll move on to fats or lipids. So your fats include triglycerides, phospholipids, and sterols, and they're pretty similar to your carbohydrates where they're composed of a carbon and a hydrogen, but they also contain oxygen. And we won't get into the math this week, but next week we will be looking at calories per gram for all of these macronutrients, and the extra oxygen in water is why fats have more calories than your protein and your carbohydrates. And it's good to note that fats are another source of energy for the body, and they're normally found in solid fats or liquid oils. All right, and some excellent sources when you're planning your meals. You want to look for oils without trans fatty acids. Some examples are olive oil, soybean oil, or safflower oil. And you can also find excellent sources of fat in seeds, nuts, pumpkin seeds are an example, avocado is great, and peanut butter is another good source too. All right, and our last macro is protein. So proteins are just like carbs and fat. They have that the carbon and the hydrogen, and they have the oxygen. But we're also introducing another element, which is nitrogen, and that allows it to perform its role in the human body, which is proteins assemble into building blocks, and these are known as amino acids, and that nitrogen allows them to do that. And what they do is the human body breaks down these amino acids to reassemble to build our own proteins. And so what that looks like is tissue growth, tissue repair, and maintenance of your bone structure. So it's also important to note that protein does provide your body energy, but it is not the body's primary source. So when you're doing physical activity, what is the macro that provides the body with the most energy? Do you remember?
Carbohydrate?
Yes, excellent. All right, and those excellent sources, primary sources mainly come from meat and dairy products. You can find them in seeds, nuts, and soy products as well. You can even find a small amount in vegetables and fruits, but you really want to look at these excellent sources down here, which are your beef, pork, poultry, your dairy products, which look like milk, yogurt, and cheese. And then if you're vegan or vegetarian, those items that you really want to make sure you're getting enough of in your diet are tofu, tempeh, soy milk, chickpeas, kidney beans, all that good stuff. All right, with the last minute or so of class, we're gonna play a matching game just to recap all that information. So at the beginning of class, I gave you 3 cards with the macros listed, and we're gonna take a look at several photos of food, and I want you to tell me with your card what macronutrient group you think that the food mainly falls into. All right, so on the left, we have a big bowl of pasta, carbs, perfect. And what about some tofu? Protein? Excellent. You got this. And on the left, we have some olive oil, fats, great. And what about nuts? Carbs, okay. And do you think that nuts can fall into anything else? Fats, okay. And anything else? Perfect. A lot of these are going to have all the macronutrients, so that's excellent. All right, and on the left, we have broccoli, carbohydrates, perfect. And on the right, we have tempeh, protein, perfect. And finally, we have fruit. What does fruit fall under? Carbohydrates, perfect. And do you remember that subgroup that fruits and vegetables also fall under underneath carbohydrates?
Fiber.
Perfect, dietary fiber. All right, and that's the end of this lesson, and next week we'll be talking about how much food you would need individually.